Welcome everyone to this webinar about the exciting topic Sitecore Content Hub. Thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Anniken Tongerud and I'm a senior business advisor at ETMX. Today I will have the responsibility as a technical backup and for the Q&A part at the end. For those of you who are here for the first time, I'll quickly introduce our company. Give me a sec. There you go. We work with, we've been here for more than 20 years and we work with everything from insights to UX. As you can see, we have a main office in Kongsberg and we're 100% owned by ourselves. These are some of our selected companies. We work with ambitious companies that wants to make most of their digital presence. Today's topic is really exciting, and to enlighten us, we've reached out to Sitecore and booked Morten Ljungberg. He is currently senior sales engineer at Sitecore and joins us from Denmark. I won't take up much of your time, but before we dive into today's topic, I need to run through some important info. Everyone is muted during the webinar to avoid noise. The presentation will take about 45 minutes, which leaves us about 15 minutes to your questions. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function, not the chat option. We will send out the presentation afterwards and the webinar will be recorded. If you have any questions or would like us to contact you, please feel free to send either of us a message. Take it away, Morten.
All right. I will stop your screen sharing, then take over. So a quick check. Do you see my front page of my slides? Sitecore Content Hub?
Yes.
Yep. Excellent. All right. Thank you and welcome to everyone. As mentioned, my name is Morten Ljungberg and not Swedish, but Danish actually, with a Swedish surname. Recently joined Sitecore only 3 weeks ago, but before that, for 3.5 years ago, I ended my first journey with Sitecore after being employed for more than 9 years, almost 10 years. Decided to try to be on the partner side and do some Sitecore implementations before coming back to the family again, rejoining. My main expertise will still be the CMS products, Sitecore XP and XM. I have more than 15 years of experience with that, but now that we have all these new products, I am slowly getting into those, and one of those are Content Hub. Quick warning, as you might have noticed, the name is Morten and not Nikolai. So I think the branded material for this webinar had a picture of Nikolai and his name on it. We had to do a last minute change. So I'm taking over. So do excuse me if I'm flipping a little bit back and forth in the slides, and if I don't have the timing for the 45 minutes perfectly covered, I might need to skip a few slides at the end if I'm not fast enough. I haven't had time to time this very much. So apologies on behalf in advance for that. All right, so let's get into it. Sitecore Content Hub. First of all, we have a quick agenda for what I want to run through. So a bit of an introduction to why Sitecore acquired Content Hub. What is the meaning with that? Why is it relevant? What is it that we think Content Hub solves? A quick run through of what's in the box in Content Hub. Just so you have an overview of the main components before we dive into a live demo. And I do have a demo script that I'll try to run through. So I might be looking a little bit to the side and again, flipping a little bit back and forth. And at the end of the demo, I will cover the last few things I wanted to cover with slides because I don't think there is time for doing live demos of everything. Content Hub is a big system. It does a lot, which we'll get into. So it is impossible to show everything in a short session like this. But as always, we are you are more than welcome to reach out and get a more deeper understanding of individual pieces of the platform if you want, and have a deeper conversation with us together with ETMX if you want to know more about the Content Hub. But let's dive into it. So first of all, why did Sitecore acquire Content Hub in the first place? Well, we want to be able to maximize the impact of your organization's, your customers' content. And that means everything from the idea phase, where you are just throwing things in the air, trying things out, to the planning, to the execution, to the creation and management of that content. Then we want to enable the customers, the organizations, to deliver that content through the right channels, show the relevant content at the right time to the right people, make sure we can also use personalization based on insights and conversion data, and then at the end measure the content effectiveness, and then obviously that whole journey starts over again by applying whatever we have learned to new ideas, new planning, new execution, and so on. You might argue that before we acquired Content Hub, we were telling the story of Sitecore CMS and the experience platform as being that central piece of software in your organization where you could collect and manage your content and also publish that content through various channels. But with all these new modern ways of presenting your data, also with new channels arriving, emerging every day, that was simply not the truth anymore, that Sitecore, the CMS and the experience platform was that central piece for governing your content. It was perfectly fine at managing the content and presenting that primarily through web or online channels like mobile apps, for example. But everything from the idea, the planning, the execution, the collaboration around content and so on was never meant to be in the Sitecore CMS and the experience platform. So that is why and where Content Hub comes in to solve that, what we call the content crisis. So I'll go much more into details about the content crisis in a minute, but this is how we see our products at the moment, where we have the Sitecore Content Hub as a very central piece in this puzzle, where we can build and manage and collaborate and control our relevant content. Not saying that content will not be created in the experience platform or in the experience management, the CMS, but that will more be the relevant content for specific channels like web. So we still have the Sitecore Experience Platform, which now consists of our core products, obviously XP and XM, and our recent purchase Box7, which is a full SaaS-based CDP, customer data platform, which complements our experience platform very well in terms of being able to do real-time personalization and real-time measurement of your content in a very, very large scale. The focus is not Box7 for this webinar, so we'll leave that for another one, but do reach out if you want to learn more about that. And on top, we also have commerce offerings, and now we have our own experience commerce, as you probably have heard of, but we also recently acquired a company called 451, which is again, completely SaaS-based, API-first, micro services oriented architecture for building commerce functionalities. So that is again an addition to our experience commerce, mostly for driving that more modern way of doing headless implementations in a Mac world. 451 is in the Mac Alliance as well. So that is our take on how to fulfill this complete content lifecycle. And let's get a little bit back into that content crisis and what it is that we think that Content Hub can help in solving that crisis. So basically, and this is of course a cartoonish way of illustrating this, but typically we see, and we have seen this for decades now, that organizations have tons of different content from various sources, and they have tons of different channels where they want to deliver this content. They typically have different teams that manages these different ways of communicating the values, the products, the whatever the organization is doing, which tend to work a little bit in silos, which we'll get back to. So what we want to do to solve this content crisis is focus on these sort of core pillars. First of all, content needs to be, or users, employees in the companies, they need to be able to find the relevant content. They need to be able to surface that content and use it in the right way. Using a consistent way of using content also means that brand consistency can be maintained, meaning that you don't have one team using one version of the logo and another team using another version, which it might be 2 years old, of that logo, for example, just as a simple example. We need to streamline and make sure that the campaign management is done in a streamlined way, and also across all of these silos, that it's done from the same base. Very importantly, we need to be able to manage the way that people create and collaborate on the content in the organization. Again, ideally across these different silos, across teams, to collaborate on, for example, a campaign that stretches across social media, websites, maybe branded material, printed material, point of sale systems, and so on. That could be just one campaign that we want to run, and we need to make all these teams collaborate, create, and work on the content. Very low practical. We have seen a lot of content or companies getting a lot of issues with usage rights management. So seeing some employees not knowing that they do anything wrong, but they find some image on the internet, searching in Google, they find a beautiful image, they download it, they use it on a banner on their website, but then some photographer or someone realizes that this image is being used without this company have the right to use it, and that usually ends up in a penalty, and that can continue to go on for days with these penalties. And we have seen companies where they actually have a budget for paying these penalties on a year-by-year basis. And then at the end, most importantly, all of this needs to be scalable. It needs to scale. So Content Hub is from the beginning built for large enterprises, but can also cater to smaller businesses. But it is a fully SaaS-based solution, software as a service, which Sitecore is hosting and running completely without the need for the customers to interact in terms of hosting, scaling, and all of that. All right, so moving on a little bit, I talked about these siloed content creations, where we have these different teams working on their mobile app, working on their website, working on the printed catalog or whatever, not really collaborating and not using the same assets or the same content, but maybe variations of the same content. So first of all, if we look at an approach to solving this content crisis, the first step would be to sort of take all that content out of the individual silos and collect it in a central repository, make sure that we can manage all of that content centrally, and make sure that it can be used throughout these various channels, whatever they might be. If we look at a little bit of examples, because not all content will be created in something like a content hub, for example, but if we look at typical examples of this content that we think should be centralized, definitely images, also including if they have any copyrights attached to them, could be videos, marketing descriptions, product descriptions. Important point here, which I want to dive a little bit into, legal documents like terms and conditions. Again, real life examples. We have seen a large hotel chain who is operating obviously across many different channels. We have actually experienced that they had an issue with their terms and conditions, where one team managing the website put out a campaign with a certain specification for their terms and conditions. Then they did a social media campaign, but the social media team created their own terms and conditions, and all of a sudden those collided for the same campaign, for the same offer, and it ended up with guests actually arriving at the hotel and could claim free nights and stay for free the entire time they were there, because these terms and conditions were not in sync and were not managed centrally by someone who could actually say, yes, from a legal perspective, this is approved, and we agree that these terms and conditions are the same across all our platforms. A lot of other things like product data, pricing, maybe something that would come from a PIM, but it could also be managed in something like Content Hub, which I'll get back to. But at least make sure it's centralized, so we don't again end up with different pricing for the same product in different channels. So that was just examples of some of the content that we see can be centralized. So after the realization that we need to collect and manage the content in a central place, then we have the whole process of creation of content. So planning, collaboration, management of that data and content, and at the end publishing that content to the relevant channel. And not all content is relevant for all channels, so we also need to make sure that the relevant content is only published to the relevant channels as well, and to the relevant markets. It could also be a market focus. And obviously, as mentioned, we don't see something like Content Hub as the only place where data originates from, content originates from. Stock info, prices, things like that should most likely come from an ERP system or a PIM system. We have legal documents that probably resides in some legal system. We might have agencies who are giving us or providing us with all the product images. It could be images that we want to use on our website for our campaigns and so on. They need to be able to deliver and maintain the control in terms of usage rights for those images. So there's also the aggregation part, meaning that we need to get some data in and aggregate it and combine it with other content, plan, collaborate, manage, and then at the end publish all of that data. That also means that we need a way to modularize this content. So when we collect, let's say we want to present a product, we might need information from the ERP system, from the PIM system, but we also want to add additional descriptions for that product. We want to add related products. We want to add spare parts, whatever that is related to this product. And just a quick screenshot on how that could look like in Content Hub is these collections or these modular contents, including metadata. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of information for the different pieces of content here. So we have blogs, we have social media posts, and we can also see the status. They are in progress, they are maybe an idea, and so on. A way of modularizing and collecting these different kinds of content into modules is extremely important. So that is the fourth step. And then finally, obviously, we need to have the ability to define who owns the content, who needs to take action on the content, and who needs to govern the content. So we still have teams who needs to control what goes out to the website. We still have social media teams who needs to control the social media channels. So we need to make sure that we can define and manage the ownership, the governance as well. And this is where in the middle we have our Sitecore Content Hub. So Content Hub is basically a platform that can make sure you can aggregate, plan, collaborate, manage, and publish your central content to your channels that you have as an organization. All right, So let me just do a quick time check. Okay, time is running. So before I dive into the demo, let's just have a quick overview of what is actually in the box when we talk about Content Hub. So as mentioned, Content Hub started out as a digital asset management system. So some of the core functionality and what is underlining the whole platform is that way of managing your assets. But a lot of tools have been built on top of that, which I can quickly take you through. So we do have the digital asset management and the PCM, which is the product content management system. Those are sort of the core offerings and the standard product that we deliver. Then, as a customer, you can add on top of that the Sitecore MRM, so the marketing resource management, which is a classic marketing resource management where you can manage the content in a Gantt chart way. So you can manage when should different pieces of this campaign go live, what is the budget, who is assigned to do what at what time, and so on. So basically the planning and execution of campaigns. It could be across channels, markets, and brands. Then we have the Sitecore Cmp, which is the content marketing platform. I'll get back to that because first of all, when I mentioned the Sitecore PCM, the product content management, you might argue, why is this not called a PIM, product information management system? It is because this is basically a more modern way of aggregating and making sure you control your product for publication into your e-commerce solutions, for example, whereas you in many cases would still have an ERP or a PIM or both with the core information about your products, and that's why it's called a PCM and not a PIM. And then we have the Sitecore Web To Print, again, an add-on module that some customers have a great use for, which is basically allowing you to automate the collateral creation. So if you are doing a lot of leaflets that you are handing out to physical shops, for example, where you need to be able to quickly update prices, update colors, update branding, whatever, and then print these to collaterals. That is a product for doing that. And the reason why I just kept CMP for the last thing is because if we look at digital asset management, the DAM, it covers all your assets like documents, images, PDFs, all of that. We have PCM, which covers your products. And then basically everything else content-wise is the CMP. So the CMP is where you can create. If you have experience with the Sitecore Core platform, think of Sitecore templates in the Sitecore CMS, where you can construct your different content pieces exactly like you want them, with the exact fields that you want. Obviously, the Sitecore Cmp is both a collection of fields, but it could also be references to everything else in the Sitecore Content Hub, like digital assets or products. Yeah, so this is basically what we have in the box. You don't buy everything at once. You can, as a customer, choose the functionality and the features that you need, and obviously also add on later on if you get the need for more features from the Content Hub. All right, so I think I have been showing enough slides, and I only have roughly around 20 minutes left for the demo, so we can also leave some time for the Q&A. So let's go into that, and just to make sure that you all have an overview of what I can show in these 20 minutes. I'm not even sure I can manage that in 20 minutes, but let's see. First of all, I want to show you the digital asset management and product content management in terms of findability. Which obviously is where we save time and work more efficiently. We also make sure that we have this brand consistency, because if you can find the right assets, you don't create duplicates and other variations of the same content. Create and collaborate, I want to take you through that as well, so you can see how that works in the platform. Then we have a little bit on the CMP. So just showing what does these more generic content pieces looks like and how can you use them. And at the end, talk a little bit about publishing, sharing the content through different channels. So if we start with findability, let me switch to my Content Hub. I'm just going to refresh it so I'm making sure that I'm still authenticated. So this is the front page of your Content Hub when you go in. You can see fully SaaS-based, obviously, so it's just an online version somewhere. The front page here can be completely customized, both in terms of branding, so everyone would see their own branded front page. It could even be if you have different departments doing different things in your organization, they could have their own individually branded front page based on department. You can also go down to the user level and make sure that the front page here is customized per user. So completely free. You can see in the top here we have the various areas of the Content Hub. Now, obviously, I have the full platform available here. So I both have the PCM products, I have the CMP, meaning the content, the digital asset management, which is assets. And then we have some supporting features like collections. I'll get back into that. Project, which is the MRM, print, web to print. And then relating to assets and content and so on, we have create and review. We have some digital rights management. And there are also some reporting tools. I'll not go into deep details here. Just know that everything is being audited in this platform, so you can always go back and find out who did what at what time in the platform. If we look at the front page here, yeah, so this is obviously our demo that has been set up already with some assets, with some content and so on. So we have a few collections already. I don't have any searches or selections that I have created, but I can immediately go in and search for something. Now, this is very much a fitness and an outdoor kind of company that is working with physical products, but also with services and so on. But if I, for example, let's say search for cycle, let's see what we get. First of all, notice that we switch to the assets area because all assets basically is represented here under assets, whether that is a content asset or a pure asset like an image or PDF and so on. Notice also we do see a lot of things that looks like they are related to cycling, but I also have this odd product at the end. Well, that doesn't really seem like a product that is or an image that relates to cycling in any way. But this actually shows a little bit about our flexible domain model because this product here probably has an attached file or an attached document that says something about the cycling of air in this appliance that we have here. So the search here goes across not only the exact asset, but it also notices all the relations that the asset might have to other pieces in the Content Hub. Yeah. So just to highlight that before we move on with the demo, let me just make a quick note on that. So a typical digital asset management model, you have all your assets, and then you can tag those assets with, for example, let's say cycling. Or whatever your tags might be, and you use that as a taxonomy for finding your different products and maybe also relating them to each other or your different assets. This, however, provides a big problem, and we have seen this in many legacy systems where, let's say you want to update that tag cycle to something else, you need to run bulk updates to get all the different assets that have used this tag updated to the new version of the tag. Or if you have a related some related content, again, you need to bulk update everything to get everything to link up together again. In our domain model here in Content Hub, and that was how it was built from the beginning, we work with relationships. So obviously we can still tag content, but content can also be related to everything else in the Content Hub. So I'll show that a little bit later with a product where you can see how it relates to several other things. So that was just to make a quick note on that we have a very flexible domain model where everything is inherited from each other, and that's also why this product appears here, because somewhere in that inheritance chain of what is related to this image, it says something about cycle. It could be in a product leaflet or something like that. I also have a lot of ways of refining my search. Obviously, I have facets. I could search more specifically for more content up here in the free text search, but let's just limit it down to my cycling. So then we get rid of that appliance. And actually, I know I'm going to use this a lot. So I could either do two things. I could just save this search and say, well, this is cycling. Whenever I use this saved search, I do the exact faceting and free text search that I just applied here. And you will see that it ends up on my front page as well as a saved search. So I can easily get to it from my front page. So this is a good way of making sure that I always go to, when I need to find everything related to cycling, that I do a fresh search with whatever search terms I had. Now, I could also, instead of using save search, I could also, under saved here, I could create a selection that I want to add all of these products to. So this could be cycling products, if I could spell. Again, I can share this selection with my team members, for example, if we are often working with assets relating to cycling. So I'm going to save that. Right now, it's just an empty collection, but then I could say, well, I know that all of these, so let me just, not that, get back to that a little bit later. All of these products here, let me just, I'll take some of them actually just to show the way the collection works. So let me just add those to my current selection, and they are then added. So a selection where saved search is always just whatever search terms you build, you will execute that search whenever you use your saved search. Whereas a collection is where you can add, sorry, not a collection, a selection is where you can just, on an ongoing basis, you just add to your collection. Again, your selection is on the front page. So we have cycling products here now on the front page. Now, this is almost the same, but not entirely as collections. Collections are actually also a way of getting to your assets faster. This is actually what we would call a mini dam in the Content Hub dam system, where you can create a collection. You can share it with team members, also members outside of your organization. That could be a digital agency, for example. So you could create a collection for all assets that this digital agency is delivering to you, and then make sure that they only have rights to access that mini version of the Content Hub, which sort of encapsulates only the assets that you put into that collection. So a way of collaborating across without giving too much access to the full system. All right, let me just double check that I've done what I wanted to here. Yeah, just one final note. Obviously, we also have a lot more advanced search features where you can go in very specifically and choose specific fields on your assets that you wanna search for, and then you can choose whether it should end with or is equal to, and so on. So very specific search terms, which means that this findability is optimized, so you can really find what you are looking for. All right, I'll get back to showing the products, but if we click into an asset, we can see a lot of metadata about this asset. So we obviously have the image, but we can see there are a lot of metadata as well that we can add on this image. I'll go back to this and go into details when we look at the creation part a little bit later on. All right, so that was a little bit about normal assets. Now, if we look at the products, They are very similar. So let's just take the full product collection. So you can see I could look at it from a commerce catalogs point of view. So we could have multiple catalogs, and whether they are coming from a PIM system or you create them directly in Content Hub, that is basically up to you as an organization. We could also divide products into product families, but then we also have that just all products here. And let me just see, we have something called Serenity products. So if we search for those, we get all the different Serenity products. And let's go into one of the products. I had one I wanted to show, this one, for example. Notice here that these two different products, they look like they are pointing to that same image. So if I click on one of these products, we can see we have, again, a number of metadata. So this is a sort of an out-of-the-box product where we have details about the product. And again, this could come from a PIM system. We could have prices coming from an ERP system, for example, integrating that way. And then we could add additional assets. So in this case, we have one image asset that we have associated with it. Then we could add content. So again, from our content piece here, or there could be some comments in this place. Now, very importantly, all of this is completely configurable. You can add additional tabs. You can add additional fields for additional metadata, whatever is needed to make sure that you cover what your product needs. You can see, for example, product families. That is a taxonomy where we have added in cycling, meaning that this product relates to the product family cycling. We could add more if we wanted to. So obviously we have a list of product families that we could associate with this product. And the same way we could do for a lot of other things. So we, for example, have sport type. That's also a taxonomy where we can associate this product to several sport types. Yeah, and if we click on the actual asset, again, going back to this one, we can see that this asset, as we also saw in the overview of products, is related to two products, to the Serenity bike and the Serenity smartphone. So again, we can easily see the relationships and how assets, content, products, and so on relate to each other in the system. Yeah. I think that is it that I wanted to show about products, and I do see that I'm running out of time. So let's move on to the create part. So right now we have looked at already created assets, already created products, and so on. If we want to start working with new assets, for example, we have the create part here. So let me add some new files. We could also import from an Excel sheet. So that could be an Excel sheet that points to a number of assets in an online repository. That could be OneDrive, that could be Google Drive, whatever, where those assets, those images are publicly available. You can bulk upload like that. But let me just use my already prepared content here. So I have a few images that I'm gonna drag and drop. I know you can't see it because it's on the other screen, but they are here. So I'm uploading 2 images. It's done. When I click done, you'll see immediately that we don't see the images actually. But this is because right now I just added the images. Then Content Hub starts rendering the images in different renditions. We'll get back to that. Analyzes the images and so on. So there's a lot of background processes happening now for the different images. If I click on one of them, it might be already, yeah, so it's already done now, so we can see the image. We could start filling in all the product details that we want. So let's, for example, say, is it here? What do we want to do? 2 seconds, I need to type. So we need the, it's not there. Sorry, I did them all here. Here, sorry. So I wanted to add the type. So basically here we can make sure that that this content only goes to the right channels, for example. And if we, for example, think that this is primarily for social media, we mark this as being a social media asset, for example. We could go on and add product details, content details. Again, this is how this demo system has been set up, that we have these metadata available, but we could also create other kinds of metadata around our assets. Let me just save that and show you a different way of also managing the content. Right now, I only have these two assets here, but I might have a ton of assets that I just uploaded, and I want to make sure that they are all for my social media channel, for example. We have this edit in table view as well, where you can go in and edit all the common fields. Again, we can add custom fields here as well, and it is like, for example, working in Excel. So we can say, okay, a social media asset. I know that all of my assets should have this type. So we can do it in that way. So we could fill in something and just copy paste to the rest if we want to do bulk editing of our content. So let's save and close that. Let's see. So we added the type. We have done a bulk upload, and then because this is still in the create part, we can't really use these assets yet. If I go to assets, I won't find these images because they are not approved yet as a real asset that I can use in my system. So if I then go into this one again, I could look at it and say, well, I've done what I wanted. Notice here that now the image analysis has run as well. So artificial intelligence will look at the image and try to get tags out of it. So in this case, it has seen a person, human face, smiling, has a beard, and so on. Pretty spot on, actually. It's a man smiling for the camera. Yeah, pretty spot on. Obviously, we can manually add tags. We can change the description and so on. But this helps tremendously when you upload a lot of images and you want to make them findable by tags, that you already get all these auto-generated tags based on the image analysis that is done. I'm actually fine with this image now, so I want to approve it. So though it says not there. Go back to the overview. Shoot. Sorry about that. So I have this one, and I want to not directly. I don't want to directly approve it. Sorry, I'm fiddling around a little bit. Where's my approve button? Have that gone? Okay, but we can skip the, I think I've done something, so I actually skip the, okay, there it is. I'm just blind, apparently. I want to submit this for approval, so we can make sure that someone else takes over and make sure that this is okay to be used as an asset. Again, from within here, we could also make sure that it only goes to certain channels, that it only that only certain people is allowed to use this asset, and so on. But the overall idea is, of course, that we can submit it for approval. Someone else than me will then take a look at it and make sure that it's an okay image, and we can move on with the image. Also notice on the actual image that there's a little crown here. This means that this is the main image for this asset. I could actually upload multiple images for this asset. We always need to make one of them the primary one because this is seen as an image, but there could be multiple versions of this image. Let's say you are constantly editing the image in Adobe Photoshop and you upload a new version, but you want to keep the version history. So that's possible as well. Let me just submit this for approval. I'm going to say okay to that. So now it ends up in the, you can see now it's gone from my create view, but it now ends up in the review state. And in review, and actually let me go back and show you one more thing. So let me just approve the other one as well. I'll take this one. And submit for approval. All right, and I'll go back to the review part. And notice that I uploaded actually an image that was already there and had been approved before. So it gets this little tag that it has a duplicate. So I'm immediately also advised that, well, it's very well that you're uploading this image, but we actually already have that image in our Content Hub. So maybe you want to do something about it, either delete it and use the other one, or maybe it's intentional that you have that same image but with different text, maybe, or whatever. So let's look at this one. So as a reviewer, I can look at it and say, okay, actually, I don't like the watch on his wrist there. Maybe it's a competitor's product or whatever. So as a reviewer, I'm gonna annotate and give a little bit of feedback for this image before I can actually approve it. So annotation can be done in many different ways. So one way is using some coloring and say, well, we have this watch here, and I'm going to add a comment saying wrong watch, for example. Save that. And actually, because it is a wrong watch, as a reviewer, I can't really approve this image. So I'm gonna reject it and say, please see annotation, and send it back. Now the original uploader will be notified that that the image is back. It was, and you will also see a little notification here. This has been rejected previously, and obviously we can click in and look at the annotations. If we look here, we can see there is one annotation, and we can go in and see what is actually wrong with this image, and then fix whatever. So I can see, okay, there is something wrong with the watch, and it also highlights. And if I click the annotation, it will highlight where that problem is actually written down. Yeah, so that is a little bit on the whole creation, the idea phase, the collaboration, and how to work with assets. Let me just see if I got everything there. Yeah, I'm gonna save the public links to a little bit later, I think. All right, cool. Let me just double check my slides. So let's move on a little bit. We did walk through the create and collaborate now. So basically, as you saw, we have collaboration features like annotation. We have workflows. We have the whole process from creation to approval, and that can also be made a lot more flexible in terms of more workflows that you wanna add. Maybe you wanna keep your content in the create phase, but you want multiple steps in that create phase where you say, now I did my piece, now I want to send it for some editorial work, but I want to keep the asset in the create phase. And only when we have went through 1, 2, 3 steps in the workflow, then it can be submitted for review afterwards. So we both have those states like create, review, and approved, but within those states there can be multiple workflow steps as well that you want, and where you can assign different user groups or different users to work in those steps. Yeah, sorry. Let's quickly look at the CMP as well. So the CMP is basically, as mentioned, everything that is not assets or products, we can basically manage in our content, the content marketing platform. So I'm just going to look at the work. Again, you can see we have various ways of representing that content. So it could be strategy and ideas. We could go straight into search for all the content that has been created. We also do have the calendar where we can manage when things are going live. So now it is a demo. I think there's something in June 2020. Yeah, so we can see that here we have actually pointed to some specific content that probably should go live around these dates. That was not the focus of what I wanted to tell. So let's just go back to content. I just want to show this really quick because we don't have much time. So if we look at all work, and maybe I'll just pin this down to articles. So as you can see, these are different types of content: fitness events, articles, webinars, blogs. If we look at an article, you might see that as fairly similar to what you could do in Sitecore with templates. So if you look at 10-minute home workout, this content piece is basically a number of, let's just hit edit, a number of fields. So we have various fields for the different content we want to capture. And then we can have attachments like assets, for example, that we attach to this specific content. It doesn't say anything about how this content will be presented in any channels. So this is, again, pure content creation and content management. We don't say anything about the actual visibility and how this is being presented in various channels, because this might be presented on a website as an article, but it might also be sent as an RSS feed to some device, for example, or we might use some of it, just the headline, in a point of sale system, for example, where we need it completely unformatted. All right. So let me go back to that one. And just as a quick example of how we can see where we could use that specific content is obviously in our core Sitecore platform. So if I just go here and let me just refresh so I know I'm logged in. If we look at the content editor, I have set up a connection between my Content Hub and my Sitecore here. And in my content editor, I've pointed to the articles should come from my Content Hub and not get directly created in Sitecore. Everything else is being created in Sitecore and managed in Sitecore, but I want my articles to actually come from Content Hub. So we can see there's my 10-minute home workouts where all the fields here are actually populated from the Content Hub. You can see that's the asset that I had attached as well. Now I could switch out the asset if I wanted to, so we can see we also integrate with the digital asset management system for choosing direct images from there. Yeah. So let's just go back here. And what I don't have time to show in the product, also we are coming up to, I'm in quite a hurry. So I'll just go through the rest in slides. Marketing resource management, where we can, in a Gantt chart way, can manage our different events, campaigns, whatever it might be. A whole product launch can be managed both in terms of when does what go live, what needs to be finalized at what time. There could be some built-in workflows that will notify people of when they need to do what. We can attach budgets and so on to this. So this is a pure marketing resource management tool that sits within Content Hub and works across all content. The digital rights management, again, we can make sure that the images that we get from an agency, for example, we control where it's being used, both in terms of how long are we able to use it. Is it valid for a year? Is it valid forever? But also, is it only valid for certain markets, for example? Let's say I'm only allowed to use this on the German market, or I'm only allowed to use this on social media campaigns. So channels, markets, and so on. We can make sure that that we specify that here. And when we publish our links, when we use our assets, the digital right management is obviously being respected. Yeah. So just a quick note here that you can also filter down and say, well, I only want to see the assets that is available where I can use them from the 1st of June to the 29th of June, and all digital in Germany. So making sure that the assets that I want to use is actually also valid and don't have any digital rights management in that period that I'm searching for. All right, so that was a quick one on that one. We went through the CMP on building your own models, and think of this as your Sitecore templates. This is completely customizable, where you can manage the fields and the collections of assets that can be added to this piece of content as you want. So this is generic content you can build here. And then the last part, which I will quickly touch upon, again, don't have time to show it in the system, but we do have, if we quickly look at an asset, whenever we work with assets, we can create these public links. they are being created automatically. Typically, when an asset is approved, typically Content Hub goes through all the different renditions that has been set up for this specific workflow. So that could be depending on which markets it's available for, which channels it's available for. Then specific renditions of this image is being created. But we could also create them manually, and you can see there are various different. For this one, we can either create an original, a preview, or thumbnail, and we can work with cropping and expiration dates for this link and so on. So you can also create your own custom, very specific links that generates them. And maybe one very important note, which I'll get into on these last slides here, is that when these links are created and published, they are actually published to a full-blown CDN that also comes with Content Hub. It's not something that the customer needs to pay extra for, or that the customer needs to set up themselves. These links that is being generated for all the assets, for the content and so on, that is being published to a global CDN for fast retrieval by, for example, headless applications. So on top of that, I just want to mention, besides publishing links to this CDN, we can actually also add content as a service on top of Sitecore. We call it Sitecore Edge. It is already released for the Content Hub. It will be released for the experience management as well. And what it means is that you will be able to publish not only your assets, but also these content pieces like an article, blog post, whatever types of content you have in your Content Hub. You can publish those as JSON data to a what we call Sitecore Edge, which is again something that we control and we manage. And then whatever channel that needs to access this, whether it's a headless mobile application, whether it's a Next.js application, they can access that content using a defined GraphQL API and get the content and show it in whatever kind of applications that has nothing to do with the Sitecore world at all. They can be completely standalone applications just using our GraphQL endpoint. So a little bit more graphical here. We have our GraphQL you publish to delivery regions, and we have a public CDN available as well. So all requests and responses from your headless application, for example, goes through the CDN, gets the data and sends it back to the receiver, the receiving application. So this becomes basically fast when delivering content. And as mentioned, now we are focusing on Content Hub today. This will be made available for the experience management as well. So you could have both content from Sitecore Content Hub and from your Sitecore CMS delivered to this Edge network and accessed through our GraphQL endpoint. All right, that was a lot of talking and actually went a bit over time. So I'm sorry about that, but let's see if there are any questions we can cover in the last few minutes.
So please use the Q&A if you have any questions. There hasn't come anyone yet, but I have some questions.
All right.
Is one thing that you didn't show today was the review part, that you could actually like really tell how well a campaign does in each channel, right? Get an extensive report. So that's
Yes, review. Yeah, exactly. Where are assets used? How much are they being accessed? How much are they being consumed? All of that. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And the text that automatically came during with the AI, could we use that as an alt text and tell a man smiling at the camera that is the alt text attribute to
yes.
the image? Sure.
Yes, definitely. So that can be done in several ways. So for example, using the, if it's a headless application where you want to build a website completely decoupled from your system using the Edge, for example, you get all that information. So you could say, well, the description, we use that as the alt text. So definitely, and many other ways to achieve that as well. But yeah, definitely that would typically be what you want to do is use the description as the alt text for the image. Yes.
And we have an example of digital asset management rights controlling these, because we had the company in Norway just a couple of weeks, months ago. They had an image on their website with a logo, and the logo wasn't correct. So they got a penalty because the logo said that it was ecological or something. And then, but this will be controlled, right? Because then you could say like, no, this is an image has an restricted use.
Yes.
It can't, as you just explained, it can't be used in Germany. And then you have complete control of these assets and even the tagging.
Exactly. Yeah. And as mentioned, it is a huge problem for many organizations. So one I'm working with here in Denmark, they say they have a budget of was it 12,000? It doesn't seem like much, but 12,000 Danish kroner per week that they have set aside to just pay photographers for not honoring their rights. But that's per week that they have this budget set aside, because they know they have a lot of editors. They find pictures on the internet, they publish them on their website and on their social media channels and so on. So they actually also have an active bureau who is constantly monitoring their different channels and telling them, oh, this image is actually not good to use because it has rights, and this photographer, you need to pay him 2,000 kroner for using this image, for example. So yeah.
Well, I see we're running out of time now, but I just have another quick question. Saying you run a bank and you have certain terms and conditions that are so specific to this type of credit card, to this type of loan. So, and you could actually control this specific to terms and conditions to these different aspects.
Yes, exactly. So that is what Content Hub is actually doing for you. So you might have that terms and condition coming from some legal system, but once you aggregate it into Content Hub, you can make sure that it is then only associated with this specific product for this specific market and only available there. Yes. So that is the management part of the whole Content Hub. Yes, definitely. Yep.
Super. And then you could also crop, as you could just like you could have complete control of what kind of this space of this image will be used in different channels.
Yes, in different channels. Yeah, so it might be used as a banner in one channel, but it might be used as a thumbnail in a different channel, and so on. Yes, and you can create these renditions on the fly as well, and also for different channels. Now we also have an extension which it was built as a proof of concept, but works really well, where you can also let the editors set a crop and then auto crop around this crop focal point. For example, let's say you have a picture where you have a man or a woman in the right-hand side of the image, and you know that if this is going to be a square, you want that square to be where the woman is and not at the center of the image.
Exactly.
Extensions like that is perfectly possible as well to do. Yep.
And if you have like several bureaus across the whole globe, and you could give them certain access, right?
Yes, exactly. Different ways. So, for example, using these collections and say, well, we have Bureau A is part of this collection, so they have full access to the features and functionality like workflows and so on, but only within the space of this collection. But you could also specify, well, they cannot do anything other than upload their assets, and then we have internal team who takes over and approves and do all the rest. But yes, it can be controlled very granularly with both external and internal teams. Yeah.
That is awesome. So we're 3 minutes over time.
Yeah.
So I would like to give my sincere thanks to Morten and Oliver and Sitecore to participate in this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you so much, Morten. This is a monster of a solution. So and please just contact us if you have any more questions. We'll happily show it to you and adapt it to your specific needs. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.